Welcome and congratulations for taking a step towards what it is that you always wanted in life. We will be bombarding you with videos in the next little while, and I urge you to keep these videos in a safe place for future reference. Now let's get started. Obviously, if you're viewing this video, then it's safe to say that you've supplied us with the proper email. It's imperative that you listen to what is being said in these videos and watch them over and over and over again until the next one. And hopefully the previous one would have already sunk in. If it hasn't, listen to it again and again until such time that it has started to sink in. And once you think that you're all done with a video, revisit in the future and I'll bet there's something that you already missed. Okay, the elevator pitch and the business card. The elevator pitch is used to describe a 10-second, 1 minute, and 5-minute speech that you will use when describing your business. You exchange greetings. You ask him what he does, and he tells you. And then he asks, so what is it that you do? You've got about 30 seconds to respond. What do you say? This scenario is the classic setup for what is commonly called the elevator pitch. A clear, powerful, well thought out statement of your business's most compelling value that you can deliver anytime, anywhere in 30 seconds. In fact, an elevator pitch is really just a statement of your business's USP or unique selling proposition, delivered in a natural conversational explanation. Memorize both your elevator pitch and the USP, which states, imagine freedom from allergies. Remember to bring with you your business card wherever you go. You just don't know where you may need it. I've been many times reaching for my business card only to find that I left it at home. Muscle testing and the patient's polarity test. We're going to dive right in, and what I want to talk about is muscle testing. Don't worry, we'll be covering this again in later course. Muscle testing is perhaps the longest running testing method. Some of you may be already familiar with muscle testing. Some of you may know the arm test. Some of you may not have the foggiest idea what I'm talking about. That's okay, because 95% of the people out there have never heard of it before. Let's start with polarity testing. Prior to testing substances, it's important to check the patient's polarity or energy flow to make sure that it's flowing correctly. Generally, the patient's polarity should be fine, but once in a while, about 5% of the time, it may not be, in which case we would need to correct it before continuing with any testing. Before beginning, make sure that any magnetic items are removed from the patients, such as watches, cell phones, or car keys. When taking the patient's polarity, have the patient place the tip of the ring finger together with the tip of their thumb and hold them together as tightly as they can. At the same time, then they take their middle and index fingers and point them towards the sky, making a peace sign. You will then go and wrap your thumb and index finger around from your left hand around the ring finger from the right hand, and your other thumb and left finger around their left hand, forming 2 circles. Your remaining 3 fingers will rest against the back of their hand. As part of this polarity test, you will be gauging the amount of strength you should be using to separate their fingers by 1/4 of an inch. Note that everyone is different. You're ready for the polarity test. Ask them to place their other hand on top of their head, palm upwards. Using an adequate amount of strength, you should be able to pull their fingers apart. Tell them to flip their hand palm facing down. Using an adequate amount of strength again, you should not be able to separate their fingers. Here are a couple of scenarios. Number one, I can't seem to separate out their fingers either with their hand up or the hand down. Answer number one, if they're holding too strong, then use their pinky and thumb. Conversely, if they're holding too weak, then use their middle finger and thumb. They may also be holding with too much strength. Tell them to only use the muscle in their fingers and not those in their arm and their shoulders. Number two, the patient seems to test stronger with the palm face up on their head than with it palm face down. Answer number two, the patient's polarity is reversed. Turn both wrists face up and tap just superior to the medial wrist using your middle finger and index finger. You will be tapping on both wrists for 20 seconds each. At the end of that time, check their polarity. If it's still reversed, then if you look for a small groove on the patient's left side of their body between the left arm, left shoulder, and left chest, tap on that spot. You will do this for 20 seconds. At the end of that time, check their polarity again. If it's still reversed, then repeat until the polarity is correct. Now that you have the strength down, you are ready to test substances. As before, have the patient place the tip of their ring finger together with the tip of their thumb and hold them together as tightly as they can. At the same time, take their middle and index fingers and point them towards the sky, making a peace sign. Next, they take any substance, normally in glass vials, and hold it up against their forearm using their free hand. We will try to separate their fingers. Believe it or not, they will separate if their body has an issue with the substance. If they stay together, then they do not. It's that simple. You are not limited to testing just the vials. You can test anything as long as it can be placed along the forearm. You can test foods, environmental items, additives, or even vitamins that the client may be taking. You can instruct the patient to bring in a few items, less than 10, to find out whether or not they agree with their body. I've introduced the testing because that is what it takes the longest to master. But now that you have the knowledge, go out there and practice with whomever, friends, family, acquaintances, it just doesn't matter. Just practice. Remember, it's only 1 week before you're ready to see your first patient. Good luck.